This video's objectives are to be able to graph an equation of a line given in slope-intercept form. Just a reminder, the formula for slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus c, where c is the y-intercept and m is the slope. And what we're going to do is we're going to graph three different lines to show you an example of how to graph these just using those two pieces of information, the intercept and the slope. So here's our first one, y equals 2x plus 1. Now you can use this strategy. A very common strategy would be to do an input-output table. So x is my input and then y is found by taking 2 times x and adding 1. So for example, if I picked 0, my output would be 2 times 0 plus 1, which is 1. So there we have an x and a y, and we can plot 0, 1. But I don't really need to go through the table. So if I continued and put 1, for example, I would get 2 plus 1, which is 3. If I put in 2, I would get 4 plus 1, which is 5. And so I could definitely do a table each time. However, I can actually just use the information here. Remember that this value C, or sometimes known as B, so you might see that, or this depending on what resource you use. But either way, that variable B or C, it stands for the constant at the end, and that is my y-intercept. So we just plotted it based on plugging in 0, but really if I just looked here, plus 1, that's where we cross the y-axis, so I could have just plotted it that way. Also, this 2 represents the slope. Remember, the slope is the change in your vertical distance over the change in your horizontal distance. You may also recognize rise over run. And so the 2 means that my change is 2 for every 1 that I run. And so I can count. I can go up to 1, 2, and over 1, and that's going to find me my next point. You'll also notice this matches what we have in our table, 1, comma 3. I can go up 2 more and over 1. And there's another point. Again, it matches our table. So if you're unsure and want to check by creating a table, you can. But really, I just needed to plot that 1 and then use the slope by counting up 2 over 1. I know it's 2 over 1 because the slope is a whole number 2. So that means the fraction it's equivalent to is 2 over 1. I can go backwards, down 2 and to the left, down 2 and to the left if I want to create more points. And then drawing my line by connecting the points, I get my graph. On this example, I'm going to go ahead and skip the table and first just start by plotting the y-intercept. The y-intercept is going to be at -4. And then I just have to identify my slope. Now you don't see an actual digit here in front of the x, but that number would be equivalent to -1x with that negative sign. And so this is equivalent to -1 over 1. So my rise is actually down 1 since it's a negative, and then over 1. So I go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. I can also do the opposite if I want to draw a few more points. And there's my graph. And for my last one, y equals 3 over 2x minus 2. I'm going to start at the y-intercept, which is a negative here, -2. And then for this slope, it's a lot easier to see what the change is. So it is 3 over 2, so that means I'm going to go up 3 and over 2, so I count 1, 2, 3, and then over 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then over 2. And I could do the opposite, and then that gets me my graph. Again, if you're unsure and you just want to check, you can make a table of values. What you'll notice here is because we have a fractional slope, there's not going to be necessarily whole number values for every input. So if I put in 0, I get -2 because 3 halves times 0 is 0. But then if I try to plug in 1, I'm going to get 3 halves times 1 minus 2, which is -1/2. So right around here. And so that's not a point that's necessarily easy to plot. And so it ends up being 2 would be the next good number to choose in your table. So sometimes the table method can take a lot longer, especially if you end up getting fractional answers as your output. But by counting the slope, it was a lot easier to plot. Just start with the -2 and then count. I hope that this video helps you plot your lines a little bit quicker.